When I was in Bible school, my first summer home, my parents lived in an acreage farm outside of Knoxville, Iowa. And at the back of the property, they do strip mining in Iowa. There's a lot of coal near the surface of the earth. And they don't mine for it. They come in with bulldozers and drag lines, and they scoop off the top layer of soil, and then they expose these big layers of coal, and they break it up, and they dig it out. So at the back of the property, there were a lot of these areas where they had strip mined. But then when they get done strip mining, they don't push the soil back in and level it. They just leave these little small, ugly, man-made mountains in place. And in between the hills, they'll fill with rainwater, and they become ponds. And frogs, tadpoles are in there. And it was a quiet place at the back of the property. I used to like to walk back there and pray, because by this time trees had grown up, and it was all edged with lilies and various things. And it was a nice place to retreat to. So one afternoon I said to my mother, I said, "Mother, I'm going back to the back part of the property. I'm going to pray back there, and I'll be back in time for," they called it supper. And I said, "I'll be back for supper." And she said, "All right." So I went down along the fence row. There was a creek that ran along there, and I always stayed near the fence because there was a bull in the pasture, and I stayed near the fence just in case I needed to make an exit. I could cross the fence. So I was walking along the fence, and then when I got to a certain place, I could cross over, and then I was free from him, and I could go on back where I wanted to go. But as I walked along, when I finally got to the place where I was free and crossed over, there was another fence row, and I was walking along, and all of a sudden, I came to this gigantic anthill in the ground. And you know, when you're first saved, they tell you that God had no beginning and he had no ending. He's just always been. And my mind could not understand that. How is it that God never had a beginning? How is it that he will never have an end? Because everything I know about has had a beginning, and it will come to an end. But this Jesus we serve, he had no beginning, and he will never have an ending. He has just always been, and he always will be. That's incredible to me. And my mind cannot comprehend that. And I had these questions. Even though I had the Holy Ghost, I used to think about this and try to figure it out. But today, I'm standing here innocently looking at this anthill. And I become fascinated by them, because ants are a very unusual people. They have their families, they have their warriors, they have their workers, they have their queen who runs the whole show. They have everything together. They have their own empire, their own dynasty. They have their houses, their rooms where they live. They have their storage bins. They're not like the grasshopper that fiddles all summer and frostbites in the winter and falls off the limb dead. They store up food for the winter, and they build their houses and their rooms, and they have everything together. And they carry out the garbage. That's more than some people do. They keep their empire clean. And I was thinking about all these things, you know. All of a sudden, it occurred to me, these ants do not know that there's a 6'2" human being standing here that with one swift kick could just obliterate the whole hill. And I think probably if one ant ran back inside the hill and said, "You're not going to believe it, but there's a 6'2" human being standing outside this hill, and with one swift kick he could destroy everything we've spent months in building," I don't think the other ant would have believed it, because he can't believe it. He's never seen such a thing, can't relate to such a thing. And then I began to think, these ants don't know about the Empire State Building. They don't know about the Golden Gate Bridge. They don't know about the moonwalk. They don't know about the tides being pulled up on the surface of the continents by the gravitational pull between the moon and the earth. They don't know about algebra. They don't know about trigonometry. They don't know about fine arts. They don't know anything about anything. I was just thinking like that. I thought, they don't know anything about anything compared to what I know. And the Lord spoke to me. And he said, "Lee, that's exactly how you are in my sight. My knowledge is so much higher. My wisdom is so much higher that you cannot attain to it. You're like an ant in my sight. You're like an ant in my sight. And I never ask questions again from that day to this. When I get over there, I'm going to ask them, but not here. And then, it's amazing how these ants are. They have their thoroughfares cut through the grass. They have their highways. They have the main throughway. They have arteries that lead into it. It's amazing what they've done if you get to really looking. So, I was watching, and they were coming in and out during their thing, hasting away, some carrying this, some carrying that, some carrying in, some carrying out. Fresh food, garbage, the transfer. It was amazing. But then all of a sudden, this one ant popped out of the hill at the top, and he came tearing down the major throughway. It looked to me about like 95 miles an hour. He was on his way to carry out some very important assignment and mission. I had a stick in my hand, and so I just took the stick and put the stick down right in the middle of the highway. He's coming 95 miles an hour. When he gets to the stick, he is moving so fast he cannot avoid the stick. There is nothing he can do. No brakes will stop him. So I angled the stick so it wasn't a head-on collision, so at least he ran up on the stick without any major hurt. It's called mercy. When the ant was on the end of the stick, I lifted the stick in the air. The ant went around and around and around that stick. He was in the most terrible state of confusion. I mean, after all, consider this. He's been given an assignment, probably by the Queen. He's going 95 miles an hour. Suddenly, just doing his business, minding his own business, he is suddenly caught up and does not have any idea how he got here. And he was just going around. He was in a state of mass confusion. I felt sorry for him. So I put the stick back down exactly where I had picked him up. He crawls off the stick, not 95 miles an hour. He is shaken. This guy is shaken. He decides to cancel his assignment in spite of the Queen's wrath. He's going home. He's had it. This experience has wiped him out. He turns and goes back up the hill slowly and disappears. Now, when he gets inside the hill, I can imagine that he gets to the first family member and says, "You're not going to believe it. You're not going to believe this. I was going down the highway. I don't know what happened. Something caught me up. I was up in the air. I could see for miles. I could see things I have never seen before. I don't know how I got there. I don't know what happened. It is an overwhelming experience. My heart is faint." I think the family would look at him and said, "It's sunstroke." I don't think they would have believed it. I don't think they would have believed it at all. That's exactly how we are. We come to a place like this. We're walking along. We think we've got it all together, and suddenly he comes into our lives, and we find ourselves caught up. We come into a place like this and go through a service last night, and we are literally caught up into realms of ecstasy, that we walk out of this place and we tell our family, "I've been to a place. I've got an experience. God lifted me. I see things I've never seen before. God give me the baptism of the Holy Ghost. I have been changed." And they think we're crazy. They think we're absolutely crazy. They cannot relate to it. It doesn't make any sense to them. But I'm here today to tell you, whether you understand it or not, I have been caught up. I've seen things that others have not seen. I know things that people do not know. They do not understand us. We don't make any sense to them because we've got an experience that they cannot relate to. You have to experience this to understand. You have to experience it. But I have been caught up. And I can promise you this morning, there are times when I feel like I'm on the end of a stick and I'm going around and around and around. That ant did not know how he got there. I knew how he got there. He didn't know where he was. I knew where he was. He was on the end of my stick. And there are times when I don't know what I'm doing hardly, and I'm going around and around in circles. But the thing is, God knows where I am. He knows how I got there. He knows exactly what's going on in my life. So I'm just going to keep going around and around. Somewhere he'll set me down again. And when he sets me down again and my feet get on the terra firma, I'm going to run like I've never run before. I'm going to tell it like I've never told it before. I'm going to do it like I've never done it before, because I have had an experience. I have been caught up. There is a God. There is a God. There is a God. There is a God. His name is Jesus. This is his word. The reason you're doing what you're doing right now is because you can feel him. It's from touch to touch. I can feel a tug in here this morning. Clap your hands, all ye people, and shout unto the Lord with the voice of triumph. Jesus, Jesus, Jesus.